Continuing with Perek Yud Ches, we had just read about Micha, who established an idol in his house, and he hired an itinerant Levi to function as his Kohen, and he made an ephod, kind of a special apron that a Kohen Gadol wears, and he has trafim, smaller idols that surround the big idol. And again, Shmuel Hanavi tells us, who the author of the book of Shoftim, how could such an avla happen? How could there be an avodah zarah, an intermediary, like a golden calf? And the answer always is, Bayamim ahem, in those days, ein melech Yisrael. There is no melech in Klal Yisrael. There is no leadership. There is no authority. Uvayamim ahem, and now we are given a further story that in those days, now again, although this is at the end of the book of Shoftim, this appears very shortly after the death of Yoshua. This is hundreds of years earlier. B'yamim ahem, shevet hadani mevakesh le'nachlo l'sheves, ki lo nafla lo ad hayomahu b'toch shiftei Yisrael b'nachla. You may remember from our earlier discussion in Sefer Yoshua that Shevet Dan was allocated a territory along the Mediterranean coast, really south of Jaffa. North of Jaffa was Asher. And a lot of Dan's territory was occupied by the Plishtim in Azza and Ashkelon. So as a result, Shevet Dan was not able to conquer all of the territory that it was given, certainly in the early years of Yoshua and even in the early years of the Shoftim. And therefore, they had assigned land, but they didn't have land that they could live in. So they need to conquer other territory that was not yet conquered in Eretz Yisrael in order to settle their population. So we're now going to talk about the fact that Shevet Dan conquered territory very, very separated from their assigned territory in the far north of Eretz Yisrael. Vayishlechu b'nei Dan mimishpachtam Chamisha Anashim Miktsosam. The Shevet B'nai Dan sent 5 people to be spies. Anashim B'nai Chayil, heroic people, courageous people. Mitzaral Mi'eshtaol, from the Danite towns of Tzara in Eshtaol. L'ragel et ha'aretz, to spy out unconquered portions of Eretz Yisrael. U'lechakra, and to investigate them. Vayomru aleim, and these 5 spies were told, L'chu chikchu es haaretz, go and examine what parts of Eretz Yisrael that have not been assigned to any tribe, because not all of Eretz Yisrael was assigned. Some of it was left unassigned for necessary tribal expansion. V'yavo Har Ephraim et Beis Micha, so as part of their travelings, they also came to Har Ephraim, and they also came to the house of Micha. V'yolinu sham, and these 5 spies from Dan dwelt there. Hema im Beis Micha, they were living or lodging in Micha's house. V'hema hikiru is called on our Levi, and they hear this Levi reciting prayers, bringing korbanos, something this Levi is doing. They probably didn't know he was a Levi yet. V'yasuru sham, and they went into the temple room. Vayomru lo, and they said to the Levi, Mi haviacha halom, what are you doing here? Uma ta'isa, I'm sorry, Mi haviacha, who brought you here? Uma ta'isa, and what are you doing? Uma l'chapo, and why are you here at all? What's going on? Vayomer alehem, and the Levi said, Kazo v'chazel asali Micha. Micha gave me a certain arrangement, vayiskareni, and he hired me. V'hei lo l'kayin, and I am his kohen. I am his personal kohen. So vayomru lo, so the people of Dan fall into this as well, the 5 spies. And they say to him, Shal na b'elokim, ask God. It's not clear if this is Kodesh or Chol, meaning, you're wearing an ephod, you have something like the Urim B'Tumim. Ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'nei da'ah, so we should know. Hatatzliach darkeinu asher anachnu holchem ala. Will we be successful in identifying and conquering the land for our population that is not able to settle. V'yomer lem Kohen, and the Kohen, actually he's not a Kohen, but he's given this name because that's what he calls himself, and that's what Micha calls him. L'chu l'shalom, may you go in peace. Of course, he doesn't ask Hashem, he just tells them, Nochach Hashem darkechem, may your way be accompanied by the Almighty, asher telchu ba, that you will be walking. Vayelchu chameshes ha'anoshim, and the 5 people continue to go north, north of even the Kinneret. Vayavo Laisha, and they come to a Canaanite city that is called Laish. And they see that this city is very ripe for conquest. Vayiru esa'am asher bekirba, and they see that the Canaanites that are living in that city, Yosheves levetach, are living in security, serenity. They do not expect any enemies. K'mishpat Sidonim, like the Phoenicians in Lebanon. Shoket, they are living quietly. Boteach, they are living in security. Ein machlim davor, no one causes any shame to them. Biaretz. Yoresh etzer, meaning to say, Yoresh etzer, meaning there is no heir that will come and take the land away from them, meaning nobody is claiming their land, there is no enemies that they have. Rechaikim heima mitzidainim, they are very far away from the Phoenicians. They're kind of living in an isolated area where there's no one to either fight them or no one to help them if they're attacked. Davor ein lahem imadam, they have no connection with people. They are isolated. They are living in a peaceful isolation, which means if we attack them, no one's going to defend them. Vayavo el achayim Sora v'yashtol, the 5 spies from Dan returned to their brethren in Sarah and Eshtaol. Vayomru lahem achayim ma'atem, and their brethren asked them, "What's with you?" Vayomru, and the 5 spies responded, Kuma v'nala lem, let us go and wage war against Laish. Ki ra'inu es aretz, we saw their land, v'nei taiva ma'id, it is very fertile. V'yatem machshim, and you are being silent here. In other words, let's go and fight already. Al teyotzlu, do not be lazy. Lo leches lavo l'reshes es aretz. Kivayachem, when you will come to Laish, they are reporting to the Shevet Dan, Tavo elam boteach, you will come to a tranquil people. Haaretz rechavas yadayim, but the land is expansive. There's a lot of land there. Ki nasana elokim biyadchem, God will deliver it into your hands with very little effort. Makam asher ein sham machsor, there is nothing missing from that land. Kol davor asher bi'aretz, everything that you need is in that area of the country. And ve'yisu misham in mishpachas adani mitzara meshtal sheish mios ish chagor kli milchama. So Shevet Dan didn't send their whole tribe; they sent 600 warriors with the weapons. Ve'yalu vayachanu bekiryat ya'arim biYehuda. So we are given a note here that on the way from Dan on the Mediterranean coast to Laish, which is northeast, they are passing through the territory of Yehuda, the city of Kiryat Ya'arim, which actually is Telstone, Kiryat Ya'arim today, and that became a temporary stopover for Dan, and therefore Al-Kain, Karu Lamakom Ahu Machane Dan Ad Hayom Hazeh, Hine Acharei Kiryat Ya'arim. In other words, this is an interesting little anomaly. Kiryat Ya'arim is in the territory of Yehuda, but outside of Kiryat Ya'arim, there was an open area that was called Machane Dan, the camp of Dan. And people didn't understand, why is the Shetach outside of Kiryat Ya'arim called Machane Dan? So Shmuel Hanavi is telling you, because at the beginning of the Tekufa of the Shoftim, when Shevet Dan, or 600 people of Shevet Dan, are going northeast in order to conquer Laish, they spent the night, or a small amount of time, in the outskirts of Kiryat Yearim, and as a result, that became known as the camp of Dan. V'yavru misham har Ephraim, and as they're going north, they go through the mountainous areas of Ephraim. V'yavo ad Beis Micha, and once again they stop at Beis Micha, the same place where the 5 people had been. So v'nau v'yanu chameshes hanoshim ahochim l'regel es haaretz. So the 5 spies who had gone to spy out Laish, they said to their brethren, Hayadatem, did you know? Ki yesh babatim ha'ela ephod u'trafim u'pesel ha'masecha. That in this house of Micha, there's an ephod, the garments of a Kohen, there's idols that can help us. Again, they believe that this can help them. V'yata du'u ma'tasu. Know that you should do something about this. V'yasuru shama. So now it's 600 people plus the 5. They turn to the house of Micha. V'yavo el beis hanara Levi, and they go to the young man that's a Levi in the house of Micha. V'yishalu lo l'shalom, and they greet him. V'sheish me'osish, it's a bit scary, 600 soldiers, chagurim klei milchamtam, who are wearing their weapons, wearing their swords, nitzavim pesach hashar, are standing by the gate of Micha's house, Asher mibnei Dan, and these are from the Shevet Dan. Vayalu chameshes anoshim ahochim l'ragel es haaretz bo shama, and the 5 people, so the 600 people are standing outside, the 5 people enter the makeshift temple, and they simply take the pesel, the idol, the ephod, the priestly garment, the trafim, the small icons, masecha, the molten statues. They're simply going in and taking it. HaKohen nitzav pesach hashar, and the Kohen sees what they're doing. Again, the Kohen that's a Levi. V'sheish meyosish hachagor kli milchama, and he sees 600 soldiers. V'yela bo beis micha v'yichu as a pesel ephod as a trafim as a masecha, and he sees the 5 people that have gone into this temple, and they have taken the idols and the icons and the ephods. V'yomer aleim HaKohen, and the Kohen says, Ma atem oisim, what are you doing? V'yomru lai. So it's not clear if the 600 people or the 5 people, but someone said, or plural, more than one person said to this Kohen, Hacharesh, keep quiet. It's actually more like shut up. Sim yadcha al picha. Put your hand over your mouth. Muzzle yourself. It's a very coarse way of talking. But then they say, Leich imanu. Hey, don't worry about it. You come with us. You'll be our priest. We're going to take the idol, and you will come with us. V'hei lanu li'avu l'kohen. Of course, how much respect are they showing him? You will be our spiritual father. You will be our Kohen. Hatov heyoscha kohen lebeis ish echad. O heyoscha kohen l'shevet u'lemishpacha b'Yisrael. Again, they're appealing to his ego and his vanity. Is it better for you to be a spiritual leader for one guy, one family, Micha, or to be the Kohen for the entire tribe of Shevet Dan? So come with us. We were offering you a better deal. Vayitav leiv HaKohen. And the Kohen's heart was satisfied. He agreed to this. Vayikach. So instead of them taking it, he himself absconded. He took the ephod, the priestly garment, the trafim, the small icons, the pesel, the idol. Vayavai b'kerev ha'am. And he joined the 605 people of Dan that were marching on to Laish. Vayifnu vayelechu, and they turned away and left. V'yasimu es hataf es hamiknev es hakvuda lifneim. But they put the children and the animals and the property in front of them. Now this is interesting. Normally when an army travels towards an enemy, they put the women and the children in the back. But here it's the opposite problem. They are afraid that when Micha gets wind of the fact that his pesel was stolen, Micha is going to send an army against Shevet Dan, and therefore Fakert, Micha is going to get them from the back, and therefore they put the women, the children, the property in front in order to be protected from Micha's army. But Micha, unfortunately for himself, did not have an army. Hema herchiku mibeis Micha. As the 600 men were distancing themselves from the house of Micha, Hanoshim asher bebatim asher im beis Micha, so Micha's neighbors and friends and confederates, they got wind of what was going on. Nizaku, they called to each other. They were called to some type of action. V'yadbiku es b'nei Dan, and they're running after the b'nei Dan. Vayikru el b'nei Dan, and they call out to the people of Dan. V'yasebu p'neiam, and the people of Dan turn their heads to the voices. Vayomru leMicha, and they say to Micha, again, this is the coarseness of the talk. Malacha ki nizakta. Why are you getting so excited? Nizakta, meaning all of you were alarmed into action. Vayomer, so Micha says, what do you mean, why am I upset? Es Elohai asher asisi, the idols that I made, my gods, small g gods. Lakachtem, you took my idols. V'yasa Kohen, you took my Kohen. Vatelchu, and you left. Umaliyoid, what am I left with? Umazet tomru elai malach. How do you say to me, malach? What are you excited about? Vayomru elav b'nei Dan. Al tashma kocha imanu. Don't you raise your voice. You raise your voice, something bad might happen. Pen yifku b'chem anoshim marei nefesh. V'yasafta nafshecha v'nefesh beisecha. Again, it's a way of threatening, a very threatening language. You know, there are people here that are bitter, people that are depressed, people that are angry. You don't want to upset some of the people in this crowd, because if they get upset, perhaps they'll kill you and kill your family. So just keep quiet. Vayelchu b'nei Dan l'darkam. And then the Bnei Dan continued to go towards Laish. Vayar Micha ki chazokim heima mimenu. And Micha just saw that they were stronger than him. He couldn't fight them. Vayifen vayoshav el beiso. And Micha went back home. So now the idol of Micha is in the possession of Shevet Dan. Vehema lokchu eis asher asa Micha. They took the idol that Micha made. Actually, he didn't make it, but his mother commissioned it. But he made it a shrine. V'yasa Kohen asher hayolo. They took his Kohen. V'yavo al Laish, and they came to Laish. El am shoketu boteach, a nation that was quiet and tranquil. V'yako aisam lefi chorev, and they conquered that city by the sword. V'yesoir sorfu ba'esh, and they burnt the whole city down, so that no one survived. V'yein matzil, and no one came to save or protect Laish. Ki rechaikehi mitzidon, as we said before, it was very far from Phoenicia. V'davor ein lahem imadam, they had no treaties with anybody. V'hi bi'emek asher lebeis Rechov, it is in the valley adjacent to the city of Beis Rechov. V'yivnu esoir, and the people of Dan rebuilt the city. Vayeshvuba. So remember, that's why Dan has two chalakim. They have a portion of the Mediterranean coast south of Jaffa, and then they have something in the extreme northeast corner of Eretz Yisrael, west of the Yarden. And the famous expression that the Jewish nation is from Dan in the north to Beersheba in the south. The Dan of the north is Laish. In other words, that was not the assigned territory of Dan. That was the territory that Dan conquered. And the pasuk says, "Vayikru Shem Oir Dan." The city was renamed Dan, b'Shem Dan Avian, in memory of Dan, their forefather. Asher Yulad the Yisrael, that was one of the tribes of Kol Yisrael that was born to Yaakov Avinu, who was called Yisrael. Ulam, however, Laish Shem Oir Larishaina. Laish was the first city. Now again, the emes is, just reading the psukim, you get the impression a little bit that even the conquest of Laish was an act of rishus. Here you have a peaceful city, a tranquil city, a city that is not engaged in war, and they're just mercilessly attacked by Shevet Dan, and they are massacred, and Shevet Dan inhabits the city. It is a kasha, really. When I just read the psukim, I think of a cold-blooded massacre in order to get territory. But we do have to remember that Lamaisa, this is Eretz Yisrael. There is a mitzvah of kibush. We do have to remember that the inhabitants of Laish were Canaanites, the 7 nations. And the Torah does say, Lo Sechaya Kol Neshama. So, although it might be difficult for us logically to comprehend this, it appears that the actions of Dan were justified both on the basis of kibush Eretz Yisrael and on the basis of the mitzvah in the Torah, Lo Sechaya Kol Neshama. And that is the northern territory of Dan. Now, however, the next thing they did is absolutely an Aveira. V'yakimu lahem b'nei Dan es hapesel. They made a temple for this Avodah Zarah in Laish, in Dan. And now for the first time, and this is going to be a real shocker, we are given the name of this itinerant wandering Levi who became the high priest of this idolatrous cult, and his name is Yehonasan ben Gershom ben Menashe. Now, so far, standing alone, this will not ring any bells. Hu ubanav, he and his sons, his descendants, hayu kohanim l'shevet hadani. They became the idolatrous priests of this Pesel, serving the tribe of Dan, ad yom, until the day that the land was exiled. I'll come back to that in a moment. But let me point out an amazing comment that the Gemara makes. The Kohen's name, or the Levi who took the job of a Kohen, is Yehonasan ben Gershom ben Menashe. This is whoever the Menashe is. But the nun of Menashe is a small nun. And if you eliminate that small nun, it is actually Moshe. The Gemara actually says, Yonasan is none other than the grandson of Moshe Rabbeinu. Remember, Moshe Rabbeinu had 2 sons, Gershom, not to be confused with Gershon, who's the Levi, son of Levi, Gershom and Eliezer. And therefore, Yonasan was the son of Gershom, who was the son of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu's Einikel was the Kohen of Pesel Micha, and apparently his descendants continue to do that. It's a tremendous Pella, and because of the kavod of Moshe Rabbeinu, there's a nun, so you could read it Menashe, but in reality it is Moshe. Chazal connect this to the very strange oath that when Moshe Rabbeinu was in Yisro's house, he promised that the first son that he would have would be dedicated to Avodah Zarah. And again, it's a pella what that means exactly, but that was the condition of his marrying Tzipora and being able to leave Midyan. Yisro could have kept him in Midyan. And even though that Shavua is certainly not Chal, but the curse that Moshe put on himself was Mekoyim. He shouldn't have said those words, and it was Mekoyim and Yonasan. So that's the Yonasan ben Gershom ben Menashe, and the nun is small to be Merames that you don't read it, and it's Ki'ilu, it says Moshe. Now, the terminus point, though, is a little difficult. It says here that the Pesel Micha was an idolatrous temple in Shevet Dan until the day that the land was exiled. Rashi says this refers to the exile of the 10 tribes by Sancheriv, because Dan is one of the 10 tribes, and this was around 100 years before the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. But then, look at the next pasuk, and this will be a very, very difficult kasha on Rashi. V'yosimu lahem es pesel micha sherasa. They kept the pesel of micha that he made. Kol yemei heyot beis Elokim b'shilai. So we seem to have a stira how long this pesel micha was in existence. The first pasuk says, until the exile of the 10 tribes. The second pasuk says, it existed as long as the Mishkan of Hashem was in Shiloh. Now, the Mishkan of Hashem in Shiloh lasted until Eli. Eli is actually the Shofet after Shimshon, and the Mishkan of Shiloh, when the Plishtim carried the Aron HaKodesh, captured the Aron HaKodesh, the Mishkan of Shiloh was destroyed, and by the time of Shmuel, the Mishkan was no longer in Shiloh. So that's much earlier. According to this, Pesel Micha was destroyed along with the Mishkan in Shiloh. In other words, to put it another way, the Pelishtim destroyed the Mishkan in Shiloh, and then Shmuel Hanavi was Mava'er, he destroyed the Avodah Zarah of Pesel Micha. So if that's the case, if Pasuk Lamed Aleph says that Shmuel effectively got rid of Pesel Micha, what is the meaning of Ad Yom Galei Sa'aretz in Pasuk Lamed? So because of this, most Rishonim are chaylik in Rashi. I don't really have a good teretz for Rashi. They say Galei Sa'aretz does not refer to the exile of the 10 tribes, but it refers to the exile of the Aron HaKodesh that brought bracha to Eretz Yisrael, and therefore the terminus point of Pasuk Lamed and Lamed Aleph are the same thing. Pesel Micha lasted until the Philistines captured the Aron and destroyed the Mishkan of Shiloh, and then Shmuel became the Shofet, and Shmuel is the one that was Mevayer Pesel Micha. And they argue this also would be logical, because how is it shaykh to say that Pesel Micha lasted for hundreds of years? You had Shmuel Hanavi, you had David HaMelech. They certainly would have been Mevayer Avodah Zarah. Remember, the kingdoms of the 10 tribes didn't split till after Shlomo. So both Shmuel, Shaul, who was righteous, David, and Shlomo, they did have the opportunity to eradicate this Avodah Zarah, and they surely would have done so. And that is why most Rishonim learn that indeed Shmuel Hanavi was the one that destroyed Pesel Micha. But for the 300 years of the Tekufas HaShoftim, there was this idol of Pesel Micha that remained an idolatrous temple in the territory of Dan. Kol Tov and Shalom.